Obviously, quick turnaround. Any questions?
The 6 Pro Bowl guys you had.
Yeah.
Some 3 first-timers among them. When you see guys like Quinn and Gary, you recognize them the first time.
Yeah. Look, I'm always mindful when it comes out. I don't recall it coming out the week before Christmas this year, but not only to reach out to those that made it, but there's always a call or two to maybe a player that thought he was going to be on that list. And, I talked to Quinn last year. I said, here's how this thing goes. You ready? When you're young, you're a year late getting in, right? And now there's going to be a Pro Bowl you make on the other end where someone else should be in. But I'm excited for all those guys. And we've got a ton of alternates, and usually goes along with not only their performance but winning. And, it used to be a game. That used to be pretty cool, too.
So did you think Lafungo was a guy maybe should have made it as well?
Well, listen, I think he's had a fantastic season, so yeah. But I'm just not privy to all the other things involved, But, man, he's had a fantastic year for us.
When you're a big favorite and expected to win like you are this Thursday, do you get on the guys a little?
Well, we don't really pay attention to that. I think we try to stay in touch with the game. This game specifically, every one of these players understands the significance of where we're at with 2 games left in the season. But we don't really follow the spread, honestly. And there's just too many other things. I mean, this is a 3-day work week. And so today's meeting this morning was where we're at, the opponent we're playing. It's taken place since the last time we played them. There's carryover. So I think for both teams on a short week, there's defenses and offenses, maybe plays that neither one of us got to use in the first game that still may apply. So that helps.
To follow up on that, Sean, is the most challenging part of Thursday game playing just choosing the volume of
I think, I think that's part of it. I think the most important thing that we've learned is the recovery, like how we approach this week compared to what we used to do, not knowing any better. The rest and getting their bodies back. The thing that's also interesting is different than Sunday games, Sunday night games, Monday night games, Thursday night halftime lead, 82% winner. So starting fast is important on Thursday night.
What's the challenge with not only know Patrick Mahomes, but also know Minshew in terms of scouting their quarterback?
Yeah, so 2 different players. We'll have film on them. Look, you're defending the offense, a lot of RPOs. They do a great job moving guys around, getting the ball to their skill in space. So that part of it, kind of doesn't change. But that's our league. That's it's happening around just there are a number of teams the same way, getting ready for maybe someone you haven't seen. And so I think looking at the film and studying the formations, the tendencies as to what an opponent likes to do, self-scouting ourselves, what have we shown, all of that goes into a short week, though.
With 5, you're doing a 5-man rotation to get an outside linebacker. With Q specifically, he played like 300 and some snaps in college. What has he done?
Well, we've done that. That hadn't been every week.
Right, some weeks.
But the thing he provides also is he's a very good special teams player. So when we look at that roster for game day, we're trying to calculate how many snaps and how can they help us in the kicking game. So that was one thing that we saw immediately on college tape.
Coach, on the defensive side, after you give up 34 points like that, did you spend a little more time with Vance to get the defense corrected? Look,
it's a good offense we played, and, man, we didn't do enough on our side of the ball. Our numbers third down wise. So that wasn't just one phase of our team. You know, we got beat. We talked about it, and then we get the corrections made, and then we get on to the next game.
I think RJ's gone over 100 yards 2 of the last 3 games. Where's he grown the most since the start of the season?
Well, I think any young player that comes into the NFL, you know, you're stepping up in competition, and then when you have success, then you begin to believe, hey, I belong. And then when you have more of it, then you believe I excel. But it can only happen through, you know, doing it. And so he's one of those guys that, and he runs with good pad level, good vision, and it's what we saw when we watched the tape closely. He's quiet, but he's smart.
When you get to this point in the calendar, from a roster management standpoint, does looking at the postseason change at all how you think about a potential short-term IR placement for the guy?
You're always, yeah. I mean, I think you're always managing that, discussing that, and there's a lot of time spent on that, you know, and then making sure, trying to educate your players as well, you know. So that's always George and I at night, in the afternoon, with those decisions.
How in that regard do you look at the tight end spot? Because you got some guys hurt, Lewis is out.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You know, we're not going through our lineups today. So I appreciate the question.
I think there's only a handful of receivers who have more touchdowns the last 3 years than Cortland. And obviously he has the ability to go up and get them, but there's so much more to that down in the red zone. What have you really liked about how he's grown down there?
Well, look, he's a fantastic target. He's a great worker. You guys have heard me say this, you know, his leadership skills. He's about everything you look for in a football player, and now balls above his head, you know, all those, that radius is much different, and I've always favored bigger receivers. My first year in the NFL, I was just a young assistant at the Eagles, and we were playing the 49ers, and out walks Rice and Stokely, and then who was the other? Taylor. And I'm like, holy cow, you know, and so that's left an indelible image in my mind. And that's not to say that they all have to be that big, but if they're going to be smaller, they have to walk on water a little.
Sean, they say turnovers come in bunches. We talked to Vance about it last week, up those couple of picks, but then didn't, you know, come to fruition this week. Is there luck in? Well, is there something you can do to?
Well, it's not just luck. It's not just luck. It's a byproduct of pass rush. It's a byproduct of punch outs. I would say it's anything but. Now, sometimes you recover your own fumble and maybe that, but you know, that's something that we're working on.
After you got a chance to see the film, how did Ben play first time back?
Not bad, good. I mean, it was good to have him back out there. I thought we got the right amount of playing time. We'll continue to work both of those guys, and it's good to have him back in on the sideline.
Sean, you mentioned how you talked to Quinn last year about, you know, deserves a Pro Bowl, but he comes later. What about a guy like Garrett, year 9 and he gets his first?
Yeah, and I honestly, when I call each one of those guys, I did not know it was his first. You know, in other words, when I made the call and he made it as a starter, and you know, you love being able to call players and give them that news. And then in the team meeting, we recognized them all, and then I told them how their union and the management council screwed it all up, because that used to be a pretty good game in Hawaii, and now we're doing sack races and that other stuff.